Welcome to Keith and the Girl. I'm Keith Malley.
I'm Chemda.
Get into OMAT Club now. OMAT, 1 minute at a time. The course that Chemda put together of minute exercises, total of 15 minutes with some yapping at the end. I say it sincerely improved my life, and I think you'll dig it too. If you're confused what I'm talking about, take a look at keithandthegirl.com/OMAT. You'll see exactly what's happening. Stop doing things just because you're used to doing things. Check your habits. Let's make them work for you, okay? Sign up today for just $15 for the entire week of 15-minute sessions. Use code HALF, HALF, at keithandthegirl.com/OMAT. And meet us this Monday. Code HALF at keithandthegirl.com/OMAT.
See you there. Yeah.
It's a good time. Big news, unrelated, not that we're on this platform, but we did mention how OnlyFans said, okay, you can have porn on our site, but we want to get, investment money and this kind of thing. So nothing that's about sex. So nudity could be fine, but you can't have people fucking, you can't be touching your dick, this kind of thing. And people were upset. Understandably, we built your platform, and now you're just hanging us out to dry for a bigger money opportunity that you wouldn't have in the first place if it wasn't for us. And OnlyFans said, you know what? We realize you sickos are jerking off to everything that goes up, no matter what it is. You may have sexual stuff on the site after all. So the people complained, and the people got what they wanted.
What a roller coaster ride. Isn't that funny that OnlyFans get switched back and forth so fast, but actual legislation, like actual law,
right,
that will help is just kind of buried in all kinds of bullshit. So good job, OnlyFans, I think.
Chemda, big day for Chemda. Chemda today, she's been super quarantined, you have to say, because everybody thinks they were. She is going to her brother's house today, seeing people for basically the first time. She's been outside bike riding, but this will be the first sit down.
Yes.
Right?
And he lives out in Long Island. We're not taking public transportation. He is driving hour and a half to pick us up and then driving us back to Long Island, because that was the stipulation. So, of course, like people who move from, and if you don't know where I'm talking about, it still will make sense. People who move from Queens, Manhattan, the city, into the suburbs of Long Island, they move there because we're going to be close to the city. We're always going to jump in. They never come out here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that is why we are now going to have to do a food tour of Queens before we head back out to Long Island. They're getting Chinese food from their favorite place, possibly a bagel from another place. I think we're doing 3 stops of 3 different kinds of foods before we leave the very close city. And that's why they moved to the suburbs. People,
is everything to go, or will you sit down in the restaurants?
To go.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It's good. We got to bring it back to the family.
That poor airline company, Delta, they put out a statement about the Delta variant, but they can't use the word Delta because they don't want you to be thinking about it. These certain flights have changed with the rise of B.1.617.2 variant instead of saying the Delta variant.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I feel like they're on the phone with Corona beer going like, dude, what'd you do? Because, they have a little bit of an experiment that happened to Corona beer over a year and a half ago. They might want to learn things. So now they're making best friends.
It's weird. I said how the other day I went to Atlantic City. Kyle was performing there at the Magic Box. And
sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh my, grow up.
You got
Magic.
Little joys in the world. Magic Box performing in it. Okay.
So they put up, so people feel more comfortable with this, with the virus. They put a hand washing station in the middle of the casino.
Oh, good.
But it's just funny. Like, if it really bothers you, you think you have to wash your hands between slots, but you still have to go. When I see people with a mask in there, I'm like, well, then what are you doing?
Yeah, you think? Because I'm going to Atlantic City in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, in between slots, you'll use the hand washing machine. And what's funny too is they probably said like, oh, it's going to be expensive to run a pipe through here. And then they just start laughing balls because they have all our money.
I think it's a way for your spouse to check on you. Like, hey, wash your hands in front of me after you go to the bathroom. This is the only place where I really know what you're doing.
Well, look at him though. She's seeing her brother. Next thing you know, it's Atlantic City. She's
We'll
gonna be
see.
a
We'll
person.
see. Because there's a beach there, and I figure it's still like semi-quarantined, but I have to make the decision of sitting at the table. And it's like, is this, do I trust the vaccine or not? I think it comes down to, even though I have an autoimmune disease, I think at some point I have to be like, and I trust it. Go.
Right. Well, I'll tell you something. You know about this kind of, so I'm preaching to the choir. But for those who don't, Feals, Feals. You want to get in on this? It's CBD. Okay. And what does CBD do? It helps reduce stress, anxiety, pain, sleeplessness, and explain how it's different than how people understand THC to be.
So they both come from the marijuana plant, but THC gets you high, and CBD is the stuff that comes with weed without getting high.
Nice. Place a few drops of Feals CBD oil under your tongue. Feel the difference within minutes. What? How many drops do I put on? All our bodies are different. Can you imagine? I didn't have an answer for that. I'm just a real weirdo doing a strange commercial. Why did he bring that up? Well, here's why. Feals offers a free CBD hotline to help guide your personal experience so that you find the perfect dose.
Does it say in your copy, ask a sarcastic question, make fun of yourself, and then continue?
The Feals, it's in parentheses. The Feals customer service team is dedicated to making sure you get the best use of your CBD. Start feeling better with Feals. Become a member today by going to feals.com/KTG. Get 40% off your first 3 months with free shipping. That's feals.com/KTG. Become a member and get 40% automatically taken off your first 3 months with free shipping. Feals.com/KTG.
Support marijuana.
You guys ready to rock the house?
And don't get high. Yes, I'm ready to rock the house. I see your guitar is ready.
Featured on Law and Order, FBI Most Wanted. The podcast is Police Off the Cuff. He's featured in Julie Sebaugh's upcoming movie, Too Soon, Comedy After 9/11. New album will be coming out in September. Mark DeMeo. Hello, Mark.
Hey, what's up, Keith? Hi, Hemda.
Hi, good to see you. This
Thanks
is not only did you do all that fantastic comedy stuff, you were also a cop in New York. And I'm going to let people hear your accent a little bit. And then I'm going to ask you, is there part of the test that you have to pass? Does it help to sound like what you do?
Like people wouldn't take me seriously as a cop. Yeah, they say I look like a cop, but they'd be like, no, not that voice. Mark has the voice and the look.
Yeah.
You know, this is after speech lessons, by the way. You probably don't realize this, but I'm a theatrically trained actor. I went to theater school. I was in a theater company. I went to this lady and I gave her $2,000 to help in cash to help me get rid of my regional dialect. And I came, and this lady had pictures with Meryl Streep in the background and Robert De Niro.
You can't get those anywhere.
Right.
We're together with her. You know what I'm saying? Like she helped them with their accents. And on the third visit, I came and she gave me my money back in cash. And she says, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you don't practice enough. I said, I practice every day when I'm home, but I can't at work because I'm a police officer. Right. What am I going to do? Like, thou art under arrest. Come hither and restrain yourself, sir. You know? So yeah, I'm stuck with it.
You did listen to this. So Mark DeMeo, he becomes a detective. He's you were a cop for what, 25 years?
No, 20.
20 years. Comedy for about 25 years, right?
23.
And I like it, saying the facts, just the facts.
Keith would have gotten himself in trouble. What were you doing at 12? Well, at 12:30.
Right. And so, you know, I don't know if this happened multiple times, but at least once he's doing stand up, but somebody that he's a civilian that he's working with on a case sees him do stand up. Oh, how's my case going, Mark?
Yeah.
You got some jokes? Because my daughter's dead, Mark.
She was, no, that was it. I think it was a burglary.
Okay.
And
but you know, it's almost like seeing, I don't know what, it's weird seeing a teacher when you were a kid in the grocery store. And that'd be a little weird. Me going, I know you could be watching TV or doing anything, but I don't, I have a Robert, nothing needs done now.
I was standing by the door saying, like, after the show, collecting my accolades.
Right.
You know, everybody's telling me how great I am. You know, oh man, thanks a lot. That was awesome. And you're giving everybody a pound, taking a picture. And then the next girl, the woman that comes up to me, she's like, aren't you working on my case? Aren't you a detective? And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't do any cop material back then. I was like, yeah. And I felt like I was getting scolded. So what's going on with my case? And I was like, well, I don't know. And I just started like walking with her and talking with her about it. Like I left the front of the club and I just started telling her about her case. Like I was back on the clock. And we discussed her case on the corner. Like she got an update. So like, I was like, oh my God, every time she wants an update on the case, she's going to come back to the club now.
Right. So that's why. So cops do walk and talk like that. Like, walk with me. Let me catch you up.
Yeah, well, if you talk, I guess, right? It's almost like you look like two mobsters. Instead, it's a cop and a victim. We never did catch her burglar, though. I don't think.
Well, no shit. You're working on punchlines. You don't say.
Hers wasn't as funny as the other. So
I searched. Let me tell you, I searched every comedy club in the city looking for him. Though.
I picture like somebody spitting on your cop buddy and then turns to you. Don't use this in your act.
Did it get you in trouble, sort of, or did it get you poked at, or what's the reaction at the department, at the actual office? You
guys are a brotherhood. Is it strange? Like, what do you say?
I always anticipated the worst because that's why I changed my name. My name is my real name is Mayo Sanchez. But when I was doing this, oh my
God, how did it get more copy? Holy shit!
It's really Mayoanex Sanchez. It's a Dominican name, and so I cut it down to Mayo Sanchez. But most of the people I know, they either call me Mayo or Fresh. People who know me for years, because when I was a kid, they used to call me Fresh.
Why?
I was always fresh.
I used to break dance when I was like a little kid, and the name stuck with me. I grew up in Astoria. Everybody had a nickname.
Shut up! You would break dance?
Oh well, think about it. My age was when it came out.
That doesn't mean you know how to break dance.
Well, everybody kind of everybody knew something. If you grew up, everybody knew something. Either you popped a little bit or you knew how to dance. Like if you hung out as a kid, you're gonna know something. I could tell him that you would have been a good dancer.
Oh, thank you. I did some dancing.
Keith, not so much.
I'm not from New York.
You can tell that from our accents. Like, what is this?
Well, Keith would have had a rock and roll shirt on. He probably would have been throwing cigarette butts at us while we were spinning on our head. The rock and roll kids used to do that. They used to flick their cigarette butts at us while we were breakdancing. Well,
And they didn't get their asses kicked?
No.
They knew how to fight. We knew how to dance.
So, sometimes there was fights. A lot of times there wasn't, thank God.
What a movie like West Side Story. How real is that?
I love that movie. I think as far as gangs go, yeah. I mean, everybody, we used to sing and dance a little bit when I was not so much the singing, but the dancing,
Right.
On cardboard. We did it on cardboard boxes.
Sure, of course.
And aluminum. If you could get yourself, what's that? The flooring.
Aluminium. No,
aluminum,
that can't be.
Aluminum siding is the side of a house. I'm thinking of the floor. It's something that we used to put on the floor back then.
The stuff that like if liquid got on it, it's easy.
You wipe it away.
Right.
I forgot what that was called. Linoleum.
Linoleum.
Right. Yeah.
You got yourself some linoleum and brought it to the park.
Oh, you used to see. Well, wherever somebody used to carry it, lug it around. Go ahead.
Well, growing up in Queens, there were some hip hop artists, not necessarily from Astoria, but if you're breaking on the street, do you run into any of that community?
I think anybody who's alive is still kind of sort of friends. We see each other at funerals now.
Oh,
I hate to say that, but it's true. My friend Nicky Buddha just passed away. See what I said? Like Nicky Buddha. He was Nicky Buddha. His brother's Yanni Buddha. Their last name is not Buddha.
Probably not. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
When you got into dancing at like 14, right? Break dancing?
Yeah, like 13, 14.
People put you in a crew. I remember you were telling a story where Jelly Bean, the great producer, was there. And Madonna stopped in one time, if not multiple times. And Mark would hear her sing Holiday, for example. And he's like, well, the singing's not going to fucking work out. You're a great dancer.
She was a good dancer. And what did we know? We were kids. We were stupid kids. We are masculine.
Mark was
Used
in
to-
military schools. Does that help you be a cop? Like, oh, good, you know discipline, or does that look like a red flag?
Honestly, it kind of sort of kept me away from what I should have done after high school was join the service. I had no business going to college. I didn't pay attention in class to begin with. I was always cutting up. And my goal was to disrupt learning whenever in a classroom situation. Either I was drawing or I was, heckling the teachers, trying to say something funny. But I should have went into the military. But the military school kind of turned me off to it. But they're really not the same.
They're not the same because, right, military school would just be disciplined the whole time, as opposed to the army. You have your boot camp training where you're being talked down to, understandably, etc. But then after that, it's a regular job. Yeah, there's a big difference, I'd assume. So you're just I was thinking about the time that times that in military school you guys are kids and you all sleep in a giant room.
Yeah, there was a lot of we used to play a lot of games on each other. It was actually, in hindsight, a pretty interesting way to go to school, to be with your friends all day, every single day.
I remember Mark, somewhere saying that he passed him and his fellow compadres would pass around Vaseline when they would jerk off at night. And
yeah, but I don't think any one of us really knew what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
Still,
I was going to get promoted to sergeant a couple of weeks before I graduated, and then I got busted back to corporal the day before we were supposed to graduate. And the reason why was because we used to be on the third floor, and we had this thing a laundry chute that was really cool, man. It was like it was made out of steel, but you could slide on it. Once again, very slippery.
right?
And we used to toss these kids from the third floor all the way down to the basement with in the laundry bin. They were little kids. They were like second, third graders, but they loved it. It was like a ride for them. They just bounced around in this thing all the way down. And the nun comes in, and I had this kid over my head. I'm ready to drop him because this kid wanted to go down head first. So I was ready to drop him like this. And then she goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And I had to put him down. So I got busted. And the funny thing is, you used to bring your uniform down in the morning.
Hold on a second. Sorry. So it sounds like you're in military school and you're a cop.
No. I went to military school up until 8th grade. Okay. So this happened when I was like in 8th grade. I was going to graduate as a sergeant.
Oh, okay.
There are sergeants in 8th grade.
Yeah, we had staff sergeants, technical sergeants, master. We had a master sergeant that was in charge of the whole battalion.
Wow. The Vaseline battalion.
Yeah, we were little kids.
This is very different than my bat mitzvah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mark's a little upset because he never got to shoot anybody after all those years, right?
I wouldn't say upset. That's not the word I'd use.
A shame.
It's annoying in a way. Because people ask you all the time, did you ever shoot anybody? And then when you say no, they like kind of sort of get mad. Like you could just see you upset them,
Right.
like I'm sorry that I didn't shoot anybody. I apologize.
Isn't that what we're aiming for?
Yeah, but people they always like to hear a good like if you have a good story how you shot somebody, or I guess I would imagine they want to hear you get shot too.
Oh,
but
right.
if you both got shot, that's even better. But if you did get in a shootout, people are like fascinated by it. They're like, "Oh, really? What happened? Tell me about it." You know what I'm saying? And then like, they'll always ask you like off to the side, just between us.
Did you?
Yeah. I gotta ask you, did you ever shoot anybody? And
have you had dreams where you shot somebody and then you wake up upset because it didn't happen?
No. I used to have a lot of dreams that somebody passed me the joint and I took a hit, and then I was like, "Oh my God." And I really thought that I smoked because we used to get drug tested, and I didn't smoke. I never smoked in over 20 years that I was on the job. So, but I always had this idea that I was going to fail the drug test because somebody passed me the joint, and I forgot that I wasn't supposed to smoke.
Wow, what a heavy recurring dream. When you retired, did you light up that day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't missed. I don't think I've missed a day since. I actually have missed a day, but that was only just because you're traveling for comedy, and I just didn't see anybody that I thought I would ask.
Did you ever have to arrest someone and you were like, this is a stupid arrest, and I can't believe I have to do this?
Whether it's turnstile, drinking on the street, anything like that.
Or
where you
something
think
that you don't believe in, but you have to arrest this person.
I never arrested anybody for drugs. Because I didn't believe in that. That wasn't what I know there was a lot of guys who worked in narcotics and stuff. Most of the things you try to focus on are things that bother you, like your like pet peeves and stuff. Like I don't like stick
like
up
murder.
kids. Yeah, well, homicide is something that you know, if you work in a squad long enough, you're going to catch one. And I worked in the squad for 5 years, but I just had bad luck.
Bad luck. His cases, none of them died. It's like
Yeah.
you were shot 8 times and you're not. What the fuck? He's upset.
I had one guy had a bullet lodged in him, and you know, like sometimes they don't take the bullet out, and you'll know like years later they'll tell you, oh, your case turned into a homicide. You have to close it out.
Oh,
The person that you arrested originally, you might have to go back and arrest them again, but this time they get charged with murder.
what?
Yeah, if there's, I'm right. That's a storyline that I have of one of my screenplays. It's gonna be pretty good. It's going pretty good. You'll see.
All right.
I'm in. when you're a cop and a comic, sometimes would the people would be in their cell. Would you try out your material on them? Because where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, he's gonna say no. Of course, this is gonna be hilarious.
Well, a lot of times too, it's like you know, like you just you make fun of them, and sometimes they make fun of you, and sometimes you make fun of each other because you know it's like it's another person. It's not like criminal first bad. You know, at some point the two of you become people. One person's under arrest, and the other person's doing their job. So you're gonna talk to them, and your natural personality is gonna come out. And there's been situations where I'm driving somebody down to court, and we're all cracking up in the car. You know,
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would keep laughing at all your jokes, thinking like on the third laughter, you're gonna let me go because I'm so cool. You know.
Well, a lot of times, like when I worked in the Warren Squad, you were just bringing somebody back to court, and if this person that you picked up didn't give you a hard time, you would speak up for them. I said, "Listen, Your Honor, I just want to say that so and so was no trouble, didn't resist. He told me that he forgot the date, and I just gave him a ride down here, basically, you know." And then they would usually get let go. And not only that, but they would call me up sometimes and go, "Hey, man, I forgot. I was supposed to go back last week. Do you think you could bring me back?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, of course, because that counts as an arrest for me."
Well, now what
I just gave him a ride down to court, and I just go back. I take the warrant number, put it in there, and it's.
So how many arrests looks good in a month?
Well, in warrants, I think we had to get 8 a month.
You had to get 8.
Yeah, felonies.
Is it easy to get 8?
For some people like me, I was good at it.
What's the secret? You just go to half the time. Can't you just pick an area and be like, "Here's where I get my 8"? Can I just go to a concert and arrest 8 people at the end for drunk driving?
No, that's not the way. Well, the way it works is that you the warrants come out of it's almost like they come out of a machine. When somebody doesn't go back to court, it pops, and then all the warrants that go to a certain borough, they'll just press a button, they'll get printed out, and they get divided. So you'll get 3 warrants, I'll get 3 warrants, somebody else will get 3 warrants. Now you got to work on them, and sometimes you might get a couple of good ones, and then I get a couple of shitty ones. Like, you know, by shitty, I mean the address is bullshit, everything is bullshit. The person's only been arrested once. It's going to be hard to get this person, you know?
Right. You start checking as cops, now that the internet is just a regular thing. Do you start checking people's social media?
I was doing it back then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I created a course on how to catch bad guys off of social media. And it got me into the training unit. And I used to do my lecture during the homicide course because none of these cops really knew about it. And I was doing comedy, so I had to be on social media. So I knew, even though I didn't know a lot, I knew way more than these people.
Well, so what's the thing that people, what are you looking for? Like, hey, people taking selfies. I'm in front of Times Square, and then you're catching them.
Well, I mean, it puts you at a location, obviously, the timestamp. If you were supposed to be in the area at that time of the crime, and now you have a photo there from that time, you know what I'm saying? Right. Kind of sort of like, but also it had a lot of connections. Like I remember, and this is way back then, that one person that I had locked up, I was looking at their it was a MySpace page back then, and I'm looking at his whole group of people in front of the projects. And I'm like, oh my God, I locked up that person for robbery. I locked her up for robbery. I locked these two up, and these two are friends. I think they locked them two up together one time. And then you're like, oh my God, this is a whole crew. Because at some point you're like, oh, they're all kind of sort of individually doing robberies. You're like, no, this is a crew. That's what they do.
Holy shit.
And they all know each other, and they're all from the same projects.
Is anything better than cop overtime in the entire world? That's sweet, right?
Well, retiring after 20 years, maybe.
I don't know.
It all depends on how you spend your overtime. If you're down in the tombs with, and you got holding on to a daisy chain of bad guys, smelling the inside of, a temporary holding cell. No, that's blood money. If you're getting a free haircut, and planning like where we're going to go to lunch now on overtime. Now we're cooking.
Would you like a minute before your regular shift is over? Would you try to do a caller or something like that?
Well, you can't. A minute, you're getting really cocky.
Yeah. Don't make it so obvious.
5 minutes. Like sometimes when we get like a drunk driver, like we used to have a field sobriety. It's a little box. It comes with a straw. You put it on top, and you put it in their mouth, and they blow. And sometimes if you got like a Spanish guy, right? Because I used to work in Queens, and that Roosevelt Avenue, you could almost pick it down to the minute, because there was just so many drunk drivers back then. They were unlicensed. The car was a freaking shitbox. It was like no real plates, and they were drunk. So it was like a home run. You used to take the straw, put it in the mouth, and go sopla. That's how you say blow in Spanish.
Do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you born here?
Yep.
Your parents were born here?
No, my mother's from Czechoslovakia and my father's from Dominican Republic.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, you heard my English already.
We're counting
it. My Spanish is a lot worse than my English.
When you were a cop, according to TV and movies, you walk into a restaurant, they say hi, you get a free meal and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I assume that had to change by now.
Yeah, I don't think they get anything anymore.
You
know what they do get? No, honestly, they get somebody gets a spit in their food.
Right.
That's what they get now a lot.
Is it you see a big difference of how it's not just rhetoric of how people really dislike cops now? Do you see that difference?
I don't see the difference because I'm not working anymore. But from what you hear and you see in the news and stuff like that, that's the feedback that you get. You know what? When I came on the job, they weren't big fans. Dinkins was the mayor, so there wasn't big fans of police back then either.
Right.
Oh wait, you were a cop during Giuliani, right?
Yeah, but before him, first it was Dinkins and then it was Giuliani.
What do you think of those guys?
I mean, Dinkins, there's not really. I wouldn't imagine a police officer working under Dinkins had anything positive to say. But in hindsight, just overall, he was a visionary because, that U.S. Open that the tennis stadium, the Arthur Ashe Stadium that he was building, it got ridiculed by a lot of people while they were making it. But the reality is that thing brings in, from what somebody told me, more than the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the NBA Finals combined. That thing brings in 2 weeks. That's how much money it brings to New York.
Did my dad tell you this?
No, but it's some formula there, but
right.
Just the fact is it does bring a lot of money. And at the time, I remember it was getting poo-hooed by people who weren't fans of Dinkins, but that is his legacy. And Giuliani, we all know what his legacy is,
Right. Did he? Whatever. I was gonna say, what are your thoughts? Did he simply? Is he just a sellout? Is Giuliani just a fucking sellout? Now it's looking like, Trump didn't pay him. He's going to have to pay for all these court cases against him now. Did he just sell out to get on the Trump train and he was a decent guy, or was I just confused by TV at the time?
Well, I mean, because of 9/11, history kind of sort of like reinvented itself on that day, and in a positive way for Giuliani, because up until that point, He, we got zeros from him. Like, so Dinkins,
that mean?
Dinkins wasn't a fan of police, but we got a raise under him. And then Giuliani was supposed to be this huge fan of police, and we didn't get a raise. We got 3 zeros. So that means you got no raise for the last 2 years that you worked, and you're not getting one for this year. And then we'll start negotiations again next year. Something like that. I might not be 100% accurate, but he was, then 9/11 happened. And then there's the famous photo of him walking down Ground Zero right in the middle, right after we got bombed. So, and the 20th anniversary is coming up. So that picture lives in infamy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the vision that we see of him. And then, I mean, obviously, we know what's happened. Now he's in the movies, almost getting blowjobs. Did you see that? Did you see that when she had him on the bed? She almost had him, man.
Oh yeah. The breath.
She almost had him. Yeah, she almost had him. He looked very old. Like, I felt bad for him. His hand was like this, shaking like, he almost couldn't believe it was. He knew something in him. He still had that one thread of like, wait a minute, my head is the size of a horse's head. There's no reason why this should be happening to me right now. I'm way past my prime. And then he actually stopped himself because he had that one tiny thread of thought. No, this isn't right. This shouldn't.
I don't think he stopped himself. Yeah.
I think she stopped, and she had to go to Sacha Baron Cohen and go, sorry, I couldn't blow him. And he's like, I understand.
Well, it stopped pretty early. It stopped even before it started, in a way. Like, it's not enough. I imagine it's not enough evidence for anything really, but it showed how opportunistic he is, and how, like you said, this shouldn't be happening to you. This is like a 20-year-old girl, you hope, and you're doing an interview with nobody else there. In your history of interviewing, has there ever been some intern-looking, confused little girl alone in a room with you to interview, with cameras just left? Like, no, we'll catch it. We'll catch all this.
Cameras left, and the boom mic operator, who was Sacha in disguise, is out in the hallway for some reason. Light should be in the room too. And it's funny when people do jump on, like, you bring up the law. Well, actually, nothing really. Like, could your girlfriend see you do that and be like, yeah, I get it. You're probably tucking something in.
Right.
Get the fuck out. You're fired. You're out of the relationship.
There's nobody in this living room space, but let's go into the bedroom so I can tuck my shirt. I don't. Why are you sitting on a bed? Why aren't you realizing what that implicate, like the implication of you going into this other room with this young girl, and sitting on the bed? You need to have a conversation in this other room. And like Keith said, if you got caught like that and your girlfriend's watching, you think you're getting into a fight?
Yeah, that's it. It's the end. She'd burn you alive.
He was a couple of questions away. Like, there was before the reason why it was like, whoa, wait. I'd like to ask you a couple of more questions before we do this. You know what I'm saying?
Did he say that?
No, but there's just a comfort level with men. Like, when things are going like so good, too good to be true. Like, wait. Let me just ask. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of more questions, just to make me feel like, because that's where you could see where he was. It's like, oh, this is happening too quick. I really don't know this. I don't know that. It's like a human, like a nature thing, I think it happens to both sexes, or all sexes. Let's just put it that way. But I think we all go through that, like, comfort. I don't think he was at that comfort level. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, but I don't know that at his age, I would even feel comfortable to do any of the stuff before. He's so into, isn't he married?
No, he wasn't married, I don't think, at the time. Also, too, I think sometimes we forget how old we are. I don't. I never do. But I think those opportunities are so rare that you're almost like, is this a thing, God? Are you really doing this for me? Like, you're questioning God. God, is this really true? Are you doing this for me? Because I really, thank you.
Well, and you think, hey, I was America's mayor, for God's sakes. Which, by the way, that talking about PR moves, that was a New York City thing. I asked siblings at the time that were, scattered across the U.S. They're like, we didn't know he's America's mayor. I'm like, don't you know now? He's a big fucking deal. He might be president. Not who? I'm like, oh, it's a New York thing that we're America's mayor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's how I saw it. You were 9/11 the night before. You were coming back from an industry showcase, right?
Yeah, I did a spot, and somebody actually gave me a card or two people.
And then 9/11 the next day. Is it back to work as a cop?
Yeah, I woke up and I used to wake up to Howard Stern on the radio. I didn't have to be in until noon. My shift was like from 11:30 to 8. Okay. That was my shift that I was doing in the Warren Squad. And then it was like 9:30. Howard's talking about the planes hitting a plane hitting the one of the towers.
Sure. Right. So by the way, they happen to be talking about Pamela Anderson's tits, and then they're like, "Hold on, breaking news."
I forget. I just remember turning on the TV, and then I'm seeing it on the TV, and then I was like, I called my wife in at the time, and then I knew I had to go in, so I got ready and I went to work.
And then you were working 12-hour shifts, right? I think you were talking about this in the 9/11 movie, Too Soon, that's coming out very soon. You guys were rotating 12 hours on, 12 hours off?
Yeah. I had the overnight one, I think. I had the come in at 6:00 at night and work to 6 a.m, something horrible like that. I remember that. Did
you guys get help afterwards? I mean, that's a lot of trauma. I know that as cops, you're sort of supposedly ready, but I don't know that anybody was ready for this. Do you get counseling after? Can you walk through something via the police station?
I mean, after it was all said and done, and you saw what we had to do just to get that Zadroga bill passed with what Jon Stewart had to do with the federal government didn't want to give money for 9/11 responders and people who were down there. They didn't want to create that program at all. But Jon Stewart went up there and, halfway through his speech, they were just like, just give it to him because he just embarrassed them. Yeah. He just embarrassed the country. So after that, then their help was available.
Did you get counseling?
I didn't go for, well, what happens is once you declared yourself as a first responder in 9/11, you had to show your memo books, just actually prove that you were working at that time. Right. And then once you got on that list, then you can take it's an annual physical and mental. So you go through 5 stations, basically. You sit down with a psychologist, and then you go to, they check
how long is that? It sounds quick.
It's a day.
Okay.
It's a day. It's a half a day. You go there, you see 5 different doctors annually. And then you sit down with somebody and then they prescribe you different medications for whatever you need. They get you doctor visits for whatever you need. Those doctors send you to other doctors.
Did it help?
Yeah. I mean, I got some medicine for my GERD. I suffer from, acid reflux pretty badly. And also from sleep apnea.
Oof.
Both things
that's related to 9/11. That's related to the smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you physically moving like cedar blocks and things?
No. The first night we set up a triage in Hoboken for all the people that were going to be injured.
Okay.
And then nobody showed up because everybody was dead. So we broke that down. And then we went to the medical examiner's office where we formed what's called a chain of evidence. And as they removed body bags off of this, it's a meat wagon. And you basically bring it to a station. One doctor opens up the body bag, which are they're 7 feet long, by the way, each body bag. And then, so sometimes they're just recovering a bone from downtown, from the site. So you'll use a 7-foot body bag just to put in a bone this big.
Gotcha.
So they take the bone out. Somebody examines it. They see if it's human or an animal. If it's human, they give it a number. You pass it along. Somebody tries to extract DNA from it. They put it in a separate pouch. You move it along. It's like 3 or 4 stations. Then you get back in line. You get another one. And we did that all night. And for the rest of the time, we set up family centers where we we took missing persons report and we collected DNA from loved ones. Like they would go through bring your underwear, and for you, we could probably get your dirty underwear. We get a lot of DNA from that.
Oh my.
I think he's looking at you, Keith. I hope.
He understands.
So and you're a comedian. Do you have 9/11 jokes?
No.
No?
I have a story that I'll tell friends and stuff like that, but it's not I don't think so. Well, I told a story in my one-man show, and it's sort of like the arc of the whole show. The first 10 years, it's, me partying with my friends and having a great time being a cop. And then all of a sudden we hit this wall, like at full speed, and it was 9/11. Then I tell the story about how I couldn't cry, and then I had to voucher 9 different firemen's personal stuff that a firefighter collected from their lockers. And he brought them to me, and they had a meeting at the Marriott. Giuliani and Vanessa, who is the FDNY chief, they met with all the firefighters and the missing firefighters' families, and explained to them what the city's doing on their behalf. And then right next door at the Marriott, we were sitting next door at desks. We set up a place for the detectives to be there. And then if you had a loved one missing and you didn't report him yet, you could come in and we would make a missing report out, take all the information, and get the DNA that you brought. And then this fireman came in. He goes, he just drops this pillowcase on my workstation, and I opened it up, and I'm looking, and there's all these freezer bags with like stickers on it with the missing firefighter's pedigree information,
right?
Their rank, their firehouse, wherever they work, engine company this, hose company that, date of birth, and then inside of it, whatever they could get from their locker, a hairbrush, a toothbrush, underwear, whatever. And then there was a lot of them. He goes, "There's 9 of my brothers in there." And I was like, "All right." He goes, "Do you need anything else?" And then I was like, "No, I got it. I'll take it from here." And that's when I broke down. So that was like kind of sort of the arc of my show, where that's when it hit me. It was like, and this was several days later, because I didn't cry that whole time. And I couldn't understand why. Everybody around me was crying, and I couldn't understand why I'm not crying.
And what did you learn?
I just kept going about my business.
Did you learn why?
No. No, I just know it happened. I guess it happens at different times for people. You know what I'm saying?
Are you married?
I was married.
Okay. Are you dating?
Yeah, I'm engaged now.
Oh, congrats. Do women ever have to tell you because you see the sickest shit, so you'll be, I assume, less emotional than most people do? Does anybody ever have to tell you that?
I'm pretty mush. I'm a big mush. Like
Okay.
if we're watching the show, I'll probably cry, depending. I mean, you name it. But as far as seeing stuff, luckily I don't see that much stuff, bad stuff nowadays. But I think I probably have a stronger, obviously. Like if we saw a dead body together, I wouldn't lose my shit.
Right.
I would just be like, yeah, they're pretty dead. I do have a look. Maybe I don't know whether it's New York. Like, for example, I was walking.
I'm sorry. Is it weird that I don't think that Keith would lose his shit either? And maybe that's disturbing.
Let's let people think I would. Okay.
It's interesting how quick you forget. Like the first DOA I had to sit on, I was obviously nervous, and it was a guy, an old man. He died in his recliner. I like to think watching the Mets.
Right.
And when I got there, his family wasn't there, and my job was to sit there with him until the medical examiner showed up, or his family, like to bring his body down to the funeral home, whatever they're going to do with it.
Does it smell right away? Does the body smell right away?
No, it takes several hours. It takes a while, about a day. It's like what fruit when it gets ripe, but we get ripe quick.
Right.
Yeah. So now I'm there, but in this house I'd never been in, with this dead guy on the couch. And like I sat in the living room for a minute, and then I saw the TV, and I'm like, let me just watch TV. And I sat on the couch watching TV for a while this guy was dead in the recliner next to me. And then I was just like, I wonder what he's got in the fridge. So then I got up and I found some chocolate cakes and milk. And I sat there watching the Mets, eating chocolate cake and milk with this dead guy next to me.
You're not afraid that somebody walks in and sees this scene that you might get in trouble?
I wasn't going to get in trouble. It wasn't like this wasn't a crime scene. This guy died of natural causes. You know, it wasn't a suspicious death at all. And it just so happened that his family lived like 2-3 hours drive away. And I was going to have to sit there and wait. What about me like a half hour in, like between the responding officers coming there, me coming to sit there and them leaving? And then you add 5 minutes of me sitting there nervously because I got probably after like 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, this guy's dead.
This is like the math I used to do when I would sneak out of my house. Like, oh, my parents are out. They're usually out at least until 2 a.m. on Saturdays. I have until 1:30. Let me not push it. 12:30 is probably better. And one time I pushed it, I was like, it's 2 a.m. I couldn't get home fast enough from like Brooklyn or something. And they just caught me. And that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't get too close.
How old were you?
I want to say 17. Yeah.
Did being a cop affect the marriage at all? I see TV. It always does. They do not like it.
Yeah, I wasn't somebody to bring it home with me. Everybody's got to go to work. Some people work a few more hours than others. I didn't let the job consume me in that way. It wasn't my whole existence.
Okay.
So no, it didn't have anything to do with the marriage. And
what did it have to do with?
I guess if you owe the divorce,
yes,
yeah.
You know, just I'd like to think a lot of it was money. You know, we got a little over our heads in with a house, but the reality is I probably could have been a better husband, you know, better.
Why?
Should have been because I was young. I wasn't like, just, you know, young men, young people, they have, they're not thinking clearly. They're thinking with their loins.
Although you get some cop sex on the side.
The blue magnet. That's what they call it.
See, that'll do. So it was being a cop. I told you. How old are your kids now?
My son's 24. My daughter's 21.
Okay. Is that a strange age, or there's something all the time? 16, there's something. 18, there's something. Is 21 like a nervous age?
Well, there's a gap between like the words they use. Like my son, he went through a bad breakup with his last girlfriend. So now, you know, just to make sure he's okay, I'll ask him every once in a while, how's it going? You have a new girlfriend? And then he says to me, I'm talking to a couple of girls right now.
Right.
So in my head, I was like, all right, but, you know, make sure you try fucking them too, because
oh, you're just talking to them.
You know,
I have a son, for God's sakes. Fuck them.
Yeah. But then I realized that somebody told me that, you know, talking to them in their young language in their world means something could be happening more. But then he weirded me out even more, because now that we're talking about this kind of stuff, he calls me up and he's like, yeah, let me ask you a question. I remember I told you I was talking to some girls. I said, yeah. He goes, well, one of the girls I'm talking to, it turns out she's also talking to my friend.
Oh, no. A lot of talking going on.
And then I was like, yeah, I don't really know what you're talking about right now. You lost me. You got to tell me in English, man.
I go, I'm seeing somebody. And he goes, well, say hi to him. You gotta do more.
Do you feel yourself being able to give advice on that topic in that specific scenario?
Yeah, I like to think, you know.
What'd you tell him?
Yeah, you don't want to be talking to two guys at the same time, talking to her at the same time. Somebody's got let him talk to her.
Did he do it?
Yeah, I don't think, you know, a lot of these relationships aren't just like when I was younger, they don't last that long. Some of them, you take them out on a couple of dates. Yeah. It's interesting hearing.
And then you hang up the phone and call someone else. Talk to them.
Their dating world is a little like, it's a little bit the same. They're still going out to dinner, but they're meeting on Hinge. You know, they meet on these, like, instead of going out and actually, like, you know, face to face, like in a club. Hey, sweetheart, do you want to dance? No! Like, oh, wow, relax. Like, calm down.
Right. You should. It's like comedians get mad at me because I only do a stand-up show once a year. it's like you guys getting mad at Hinge and stuff. It's like, you're not a real dater. You didn't go through this shit of getting yelled at, even though it's your breakdance tonight. Apparently she doesn't know you were John Travolta. You know, that's why people hate social media stuff. They're like, you have it too easy. They tell you they like the candy whoppers and you bring that on a first date. I wish I had the luxury. No, I gotta buy three $8 drinks. I gotta
$8.
Oh my goodness. You
$8.
do remember your age, huh?
Yeah.
What's the lowest amount for a train that you remember? I remember the token was $1.
I swear 50 cents is definitely something that I remember was. I also remember pizza was 50 cents too. I think I remember a quarter, but I also remember my mother used to make me sneak under the turnstile.
Yeah. That's fair.
So she didn't have to make, I think it could have been a dime back when I was, but the thing was I've always been tall. So like, you know, it's like, Ma, I'm 6'4" already, Ma. I'm 12 years old. Why am I still, I'm growing hair in my private parts. Why am I still trying to sneak under you know how stupid I used to feel, like she's pushing my head under, Ma.
And then she does a whole skit. She turns to you and she's like, don't do that. My goodness. Well, what's done is done.
I like that she does it like you're a perp. Like
yeah.
Car.
Just go. She said, just go.
Right. Is there a I don't know, other than just being polite, is there some secret to getting out of a silly ticket, getting out of a turnstile jumping ticket, or this kind of thing? Is there a phrase or anything like this? Not having that that card that gets you out of trouble. Is there anything you can say that makes you guys just heartbreak?
You know what? There was a female comedian that told me once. She says I got pulled over, and I told them that my boyfriend is a cop, and the guy goes, "Well, did he give you a PBA card?" She's like, "No, I think I left it home." Or did he give you a mini shield? No. And he goes, "Well, how am I supposed to know he's a cop?" And she goes, "Well, he's married." And then he goes, "All right, get out of here." So yeah, that would definitely help you.
Okay.
Not having an attitude when he did something wrong, it just seems like the easiest choice, especially when I was growing up. And right now, it seems like the furthest idea, or in anybody's imagination, that, you know what, just if I was speeding, just be chill. And I guarantee you, some of these cops might be so surprised that you didn't give them a hard time that they might actually let you go, just because.
Was your first job as a cop a state trooper?
No, I passed the state trooper test, though. They called me while I was in the academy. I took the state trooper test first, but they called me later than the NYPD.
Are those guys just a new level of hardcore, or it feels unnecessary when I get pulled over for speeding, like they're really going to beat the shit out of me? Or is it because that's a big deal? I mean, when you're doing crime on the road, you got to take it seriously. They seem a little hothead.
Well,
troopers.
I don't ever recall. It's like the last 5, maybe 6 years that I recall seeing state troopers in New York, and in New York City, they usually just stayed upstate. But with this whole defund the police has been going on for a while, and it's a way to have the federal government use their police officers, so we don't have to have so many. We'll save money on the city budget, but that's a whole other story.
Right.
But they are squared away. A lot of them are former military. The hat is really intense. I'm not a big hat. I'm not.
It's an intense hat.
Like, I'm not a big hat guy to begin with. You know what I'm saying? And then they got the one that goes like under your nose. Like, what is that? Do you ever see that thing that goes under your nose?
I always thought they were doing it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what is that? I'm not putting something on. How am I going to breathe?
I go, and a Bobby cock to you.
Or maybe it goes under here. It goes like directly under here. I don't know. So something looks very constricting in those hats.
Yeah, they never have the right size strap. I do know what you mean, but
and you always have to be in like phenomenal shape.
Yeah,
like those guys never get out of shape. It's like you see city cops. You come on. That's the best shape you're ever going to be in. That first 3 months out of the academy, that's the best you're ever going to look.
When I see a lazy cop and I see their gun isn't strapped down,
mm-hmm.
What's the punishment for taking their gun and handing it to them nicely?
I don't know. Don't do that.
No, don't do it,
Just that-
right? Okay.
Yeah, but back
Put it on the table and run. What would the punishment be?
the
I so wanna
harness.
do that.
The harness that the semi-automatics are in, sometimes they actually stick out further than they should. But trying to get that gun out of the rig, it's almost impossible. If you've never had that rig and gotten used to using that rig, you're probably not. Now the old
So
guns,
like practice first if you're going to do that.
yeah, I wouldn't even know how you'd get a holster like that. There's no civilian buying a holster like that for whatever. It's so hard on your hip. You don't know the pain that you have to break your, like there's a permanent black and blue on your hip from sitting in the car and that thing jabbing you all day. And then the old holsters that we used to use, those were cool for the revolvers.
Right.
Because I used to have a swivel holster. So, it moved with your leg.
Okay.
And if you were really cool, you could get like a little shoelace and tie it around the middle of your thigh. So this way you look like you're coming like out of an old West movie.
Like Laura Croft.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Laura Croft. There you go.
And then there's a movie.
Yeah.
I've heard this. Is this true? When I see a cop at like playing traffic guard, this kind of thing, if they don't have their weapon, it's because they're on some kind of punishment, sleeping in their car or something like this. Is that true?
No.
No?
Those are probably traffic agents.
They have the same outfit as
those
cops.
I can't believe they did that to those poor people. That's when they were riding in the beginning, when all this started off, I used to see them like hiding. That's before they actually pulled them off the street. I used to see them hiding in like doorways because there was people. There was a couple of incidents where a car full of people would just jump out and like they thought they beat up a cop, but it was really a traffic agent.
Oh.
Yeah, and because they wear the same uniform, it's just crazy to me that they have to do. We used to call them brownies back in the day when I was growing up, and they used to have brown uniforms. And as a matter of fact, so they can tell.
By the way, that's very clever. Brownies. Also,
wait, it gets better because if you wanted to prove or make sure that your car didn't get a traffic ticket, the rumor has it if you put a pack of M&Ms. Not the peanut ones, regular M&Ms in your dashboard, the empty bag, they would know you're a brownie.
Can we still do that?
How clever is that? I don't know if it would work anymore. Now they just think you're a fatso.
So if I see on a cop car the M&Ms and I'm with my friend, I'll just flip off the cop car because they can't do anything. My friend will think I'm a badass.
Yeah, except it's not a cop car; it's a traffic agent.
Oh,
and you beat up the wrong person,
right? Yeah. But you just happen to eat M&Ms. I was reading.
Can I ask you this? A lot of times people think that Keith either looks like a cop or someone that would just generally maybe do bad things. He's got this like 6'2", sort of like very stoic face.
Thank you.
You ran into Keith on the street. Would you be like, let me watch this guy?
I think he's a shady lawyer. Like, I'm thinking Carlito's Way. What was Sean Penn's guys? What was his name?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Seinfeld. What's his name? Remember how he said his name?
I remember the character. He wasn't the good one. I don't think he should
No, he was a bad. Remember he hired them to forget it. It was good though.
Carlito's Way is one of the greatest. I've watched it several times.
Me too. Yeah. I love the way he loses his accent from time to time.
Sure. Well, that's how fake he is.
Charlie, I'm going to be the only one who calls you Charlie. I'm the white girl in your life. Charlie, don't do that. Carlito is doing it. Charlie, just come home.
Wait, Mom.
I saw this on your website, a little bio. I assume you wrote it. It was the wonderful actor and human being Danny Aiello, may he R.I.P., that gave Mark his first big break on TV. This was in Della Ventura, right? Was the show?
Yeah.
He seemed like a nice guy. I remember Danny Aiello, and we were on a Sirius XM show, and he was in the lobby And so somebody wanted to take a picture of him in front of that step and repeat poster that says Sirius XM. So he did that. Then he just started grabbing strangers to take a picture with them. Like he grabbed me and Ken was like, okay, here we go. And I'm wondering if it's for his social media. Look how many pictures I give on it today. But he seemed like a decent guy. I mentioned how recently, I mentioned recently how I was at Atlantic City. They have a cop station in there, but 5 feet away is the bathroom, and everybody's smoking, shooting up, sitting on the sink, holding cord. All the all the soap dispensers are torn apart. What's that? How do you get that job where you're like, nah? And I know nobody higher than me is going to check on this place. I mean, that is a fucking shithole for it, and it's a pretty major hub. That is a dangerous fucking bathroom, and obviously the cops know it.
How many homicides were in that bathroom last year?
62.
No, I bet you none. And that just goes to show you, on the outward appearance, it doesn't look like they're doing their job, but they're saving lives.
All right. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to shit on the whole cop community because of Atlantic City's.
Hey, I just wanted to mention, since we were talking about Danny, his son passed away, Ricky. And I wanted to just wish, since I have this opportunity to just tell his family that, what a great guy. I had the opportunity to work with him a couple of times. And Danny Jr. died a few years before that as well. I think both from pancreatic cancer. And they were both really good, great guys, true gentlemen. One was the fight coordinator on the show, Danny Jr., and the other one I acted with, Ricky, on that particular show that Danny hired me. And it was great. And you know what's great about Danny? There was fast forward 15 years later, I'm leaving an audition, and I walk right out the door, and I see there's a car double parked, and Danny's sitting in there. And then I'm like, oh, should I say hi? He's probably never going to remember me.
Yeah.
I'll probably be a nuisance. And I was like, yeah, but just say hi. So I went over to and I knocked on the window. He looks at me, rolls up, hey, Mark, what's up? How are you? How you been? And I'm like, oh my God, not only did he remember, I didn't have to refresh his memory.
Right.
It's 15 years later and he still remembered me. And I was like, wow, that's a good man right there. That's
pretty
man.
Good. I was picturing something else. You knock on the window and then you don't understand your police-like presence. You knock on the window, you go, hey, remember me? And it's like, of course I do. You are the greatest cop I ever met. You helped me out several times.
Yeah, he used to ask for me at parades whenever he went to a parade, and some cop would come up to me. He goes, hey, Danny Aiello was just looking for you. And I was like, all right.
Are you able to cry now at the personal things, like a friend passes away, this kind of thing, or does the stuff so personal it's not affecting you that way?
Yeah, that's weird. I mentioned that I'm a mush when it comes to watching stuff on TV, but I don't know if I really, that kind of stuff. I try to stay strong.
And it's funny because I
isn't it strong to cry?
But it happens or it doesn't, when it's more personal, I don't, but then something on TV happens that's pretty innocuous and I'm crying and I know it must be related to something else, but I got to see the next show. So I can't really process.
I went to the wake, my friend, Nikki Buddha's, and, Nikki was a great guy. And I was just thinking of all the times, but then I think of all the time and then I start laughing
right
at the wake. And then the guy talking, the priest, he says, even though you may not think it, you've probably done something wrong to somebody. And when you see them again, make sure you apologize. And I'm looking around, I didn't know anybody. So he goes, even if you don't know them. So I just looked and this lady was standing next to me. I was like, listen, we never met before, but I just want to say I'm sorry for it. And she didn't know what I was talking about. Then she finally got it.
Right.
So she laughed and I laughed and I'm looking around and, people are going to think, why is this guy laughing right now? But that's what I do under really stressful situations. I go to my humor.
Yeah. That's pretty common to laugh in places where you're, quote, supposed to cry.
Oh, no shit. When my dad wrote my ex and then my ex sent me this email from my dad going, why is your dad contacting me? We broke up, give me and I go, hey, can I catfish him? I'm going to pretend I'm you. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. And so I started doing that and it got sexual. And I just kept that going for a year instead of just crying and cutting. So yes, I think I can relate. Yeah, these obituaries that I read the other day. My dad wrote obituaries for himself and for my mom, who has Alzheimer's. And I was raised so weird that I almost didn't know it was crazy. Somebody had to tell me how crazy it is to write your own obituary. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it is fucking weird. It is weird that he put quotes in from his kids. The Malik kids, we don't get along at all. And the quote is, he's dad. That says it all. And he's like, at least they'll say that part, right? I can quote you as saying that. I didn't realize how fucking nuts this was.
Didn't you recently sign up to BetterHelp? Maybe you can figure out the difference between laughing and crying.
Yeah, this is what we're working on. 2021 mental health is finally a thing, Hemda. So many people are struggling right now and aren't feeling like their normal selves. And therapy helps. Hemda's a big fan. I'm getting into it. Join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. And when I say I'm a fan of therapy, I mean BetterHelp specifically. See if it's for you because you're your greatest asset. There's a lot to process now, right? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. And Keith and the Girl listeners get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/KATG, betterhelp.com/KATG.
And it's your own personal thing, so I don't want to ask you about it, but it seems so weird to be like, I'm excited for you. That's exciting. And I like the version of Keith that is learning a half more feeling and then a full feeling.
I thought of some the other day. So I didn't officially start yet, but I did tell the therapist, I'm like, might be a lot of staring at first, but the words come, I know words.
I like that.
So we'll see. And then I thought of something and I'm like, oh, I could say this. This can't be right.
Is that what you're doing? I guess you're starting to see a therapist.
I'm just the smartest people I know are doing it. So let me do it.
I went to one years ago, I remember, and it was like to kind of sort of help me try to get control over my my sexual desires and stuff like that. Not that I was into anything freaky.
No,
just a lot of
just cheating.
And wouldn't you know, it just became like one big bragging session, and she couldn't keep up with the girls either. I'm like, come on, Rochelle, pay attention.
That's Maggie. Goddamn.
It's not that one.
Yeah, I'm just this fucking obituary starts with how, because if you marry a priest of his specific sect, you become a princess. So which I've never heard in my life. So
honestly, I don't know which one's worse that he put that how your mother became a princess by marrying him in the obituary, or when he thought he was talking to your ex-wife and he mentioned that she makes his libido jingle. Yes. Maybe that's the poll for the day. What's more disgusting? Because every time I hear you say that, I throw up a little bit in my mouth.
Jingles, it's such a descriptive word.
Oh yeah.
In hindsight, you didn't think it could be really that descriptive. If I told you use the word jingle in a really descriptive way, you probably could never come up with that.
Right.
You're giving him so much credit. He would love you.
It's
poetry.
All five of their children are very successfully employed. That's in the obituary. Okay. Catherine was not only a cherished and inspirational wife and mother, but a very popular and successful businesswoman in her own right. She was the one who brought in all the money. But he's like, even though I know you're thinking, good for her, she got to be a princess. But in her own right, on her own, she worked at stores.
Who doesn't want to hire a princess?
Right. It's not just my wife. There's other stuff. I never read the whole thing before, but here's just remembering this. Oh, how she will be missed. She was the glue that held us together and inspired us all. exclaimed her husband. The newspaper's interviewing him about an obituary, apparently.
You know what I just said? I know I've known this before, but it just kind of clicked in a little more that your mother's name is Catherine and your ex's name is Catherine, the one that he contacted.
Maybe he's honestly confused.
But he never used that excuse. And I wonder if
Yeah.
at some point he kicked himself going like, I could have just, I'm an old man and Catherine's
Right.
my wife. Catherine's your wife. What? I know I was there, but it's all so confused. You're already dating Kyle. So this really shouldn't be a thing.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes the answers are right there in front of you, and you don't. You need a good friend to point it out. Like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Would you say that to a criminal that's obviously lying to you? Like, why wouldn't you at least say this?
Yeah.
How can you tell someone's lying? Is there a couple of tips that you can give like an average person, or you can just tell because you have so much experience with people trying to get out of things?
Well, I'll give you two different ideas here. First of all, there's something called evidence. So usually before I sit down and talk to you in investigation, I'm going to gather as much evidence as I can in a timely fashion. So then this way, we'll start off asking you what happened. And then after you tell me what happened, then oh yeah, that makes sense. But except for this, and then I'll show you the evidence. Then you'll be like, duh, oh, I forgot that. And then we'll start from the beginning again. And usually we'll have like 3 times we'll get you on that before you finally tell the truth. And the other way, how to tell if somebody's lying.
Is there a law? Is there some kind of law in my favor where I can go, show me the evidence first, then I'll tell you?
Mm-mm.
I'd like to do a 5:30 and you tell me what you have.
Well, yeah, but see, the thing is, when you used to people lying, like just say when you're a police officer, if you're in uniform, or people are going to lie to you. They always lie to you. So you get a really good, it's going to be a lie.
Right.
You're anticipating a lie, first of all. And second of all, your brain kind of sort of works. If you're any good at it, you kind of decipher whatever's coming out of your mouth. So truth, lie, truth, lie, truth, lie. And then I'm ripping apart sentences out of what you're saying immediately. And then I just put the truth together, or what's closest to makes actual sense. And that,
so we wouldn't be able to do that because we just don't have enough practice. So there's not like a
if
tell or a give.
Like if you knew that somebody was doing you wrong, either in business or in a relationship, and you had to stay there, or somebody you found out evidence a little bit, and now you could see their lies coming at you, but you can't leave the situation just yet. And he's just so used to seeing the lies come so easily, like softballs right now, just because you had that little bit of evidence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that always comes in handy. But
you're saying that the fact that I looked through my husband at the time's phone because I was suspicious, that's just me collecting evidence, right?
Well, you were, yeah, I guess in a way.
I mean, and then I caught him. So that means I did the right thing.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Did you have a suspicion, or did you just do that because
No, I had a suspicion.
you're looking for something? Because there's some people that everything's going fine and great, and then all of a sudden they start digging through their.
No, I had a suspicion. I kind of felt like I'm tired of deciphering and things not adding up. I need for something to add up, so I need to look through evidence.
Yeah,
I feel like if you think that somebody robbed from you,
mm-hmm.
You can't hire a detective. You can't hire the police to find out if your husband's cheating on you. So you got to get your own evidence.
Well, you could hire a private investigator.
Yeah, we all have that money.
You ever think of doing that?
Me?
No, Mark. Yeah, both of you. Any of you think of being a private investigator?
Well,
I thought hiring a private investigator.
Now I'm thinking of starting a company with Chemda. So we could do it together. Send her out there. Yeah, I've thought about it.
But no, obviously.
It's something that, it passes through my mind every once in a while. But just, when I investigated the business itself and how you get work, it seems there's a lot of gaps in between, like almost like a comedian, like when you get work and when you don't. And when you do get work, you got to take advantage of it. So what comes first now? Now it's not like a steady thing. For most people.
Do you ever have to catch yourself from detectiving on the side? Like, I was supposed to see my girlfriend last night, but she said she couldn't make it out after all. And then do you start going on the computer and you're like, wait, stop. This is none of my business.
I'm not really that inquisitive.
Okay.
You know, like most of the time, if we're in a relationship, I'm just so happy that you're still having sex with me. I'm not going to ask too many questions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, really?
You're old school.
You willing
Right.
to do this with me again after what happened last time? Oh, she must really love me.
Keep it the way it is.
Yeah. Don't rock the boat.
Right. Speaking, by the way, of these obituaries, we got a little pushback, Hemda, because I was making fun of my dad for the following sentence. He was delighted to be the father of 5 successful children on earth, which he was not delighted. Okay,
No.
believe me.
No, he wants to murder you.
And one with whom he is now united with in heaven. This was a miscarriage that my mom had between me and my sister. You know, that's when they was going to be born. It came out like goop in the toilet. And that was the end of it. And I'm like, don't write that. I didn't say this. Who gives a fuck? Who knows if we're going to print this or what? Somebody said, put it in the paper and then demand the paper do a retraction the next day. But this is just confusing. If now we're not in touch with extended family and they never made any friends. But if there was any friends, they'd be like, wait, there was a kid that died? No, there's a miscarriage and you're being fucking weird about it.
I think people, if people misunderstood that, they misunderstood like we don't count miscarriages, blah, blah, blah. It's not.
You don't say I'm going to meet you in heaven. And there's a 6th one in heaven now. Well, that means they were all people. That's what that means.
It's that, but it's also like, you know, I don't think that you would be this insensitive if your mother brought up the miscarriage that she had.
Right.
It's
I wouldn't
that
go,
he
who
is-
cares, mom? Yeah.
Exactly. It's that he is using this to seem more sincere and more caring. And we're not pointing out what you are going to count as a sad moment and a loss in your life. What we're going to count is you never bring this up. You never talked about it. You never counted it as a life. You're just trying to say that you had this trauma and use it for a little bit of, I don't know, just, I'm such a gentle guy. I'm such a guy who cares, but
You're supposed to love him more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Astoria girl writes, I'm going to push back slightly and give Father Malley credit for one thing. Now, first of all, right here, if you haven't been listening to Keith and the girl or something, what? What? All right. You got through the dad email saga and you're like, but there is one point. What? I'm going to give Malley credit for one thing, the 6th child. I'm pregnant, and if I lost him inside me, I'd lose my shit and would not be okay for a long, long time. I look forward to the idea of being reunited with him in the afterlife. Let's see. I personally would be devastated. I would look forward to, okay. A miscarriage is any pregnancy ending before 20 weeks, and a stillbirth is after 20 weeks. Babies have lived that have been delivered at 22 weeks, and 24 is considered viable. So I'm going to say a very slight fuck you to Keith and Hemda for what appeared to me to be belittling the tragedy and loss that is miscarriage and stillbirth, and send love to anyone who's experienced that. Now, first of all,
how do I so quickly, like, oh, you guys are so nice. You think about, you know, blah, 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 da, 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 and then I turn into the devil.
Your mom's
how am I just a monster? How am I a person who's like, miscarriage? Like,
Right.
Did you carry it? No, you missed. What the, like, how do I turn into a clown? Just right out. You've been listening forever, but okay, sure.
Right.
You know, you're talking about your dad. I don't know the whole history, but
Right.
my dad was a little weird in a way too, in a lot of ways. But I remember him telling my kids, and I couldn't leave him alone with my kids because he would always say like crazy things. So one day I hear him saying, you know, my Yoanex would have had a brother, except his mother had an abortion. And I'm like, Dad, what the hell are you saying? Like I got to separate my kids from my father. He just used to come out with this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, a lot of people complain that their dads were never around, but here's 2 guys whose dads were kind of sort of around.
Oh,
anyway.
they were around. They were around.
And that wasn't good for us at all.
No, no. I thought latchkey kid meant you had some kind of disease. I didn't know it was a blessing. I come home, I make my own food, I watch TV, I do what I want. Get out of that. I can run the dishwasher and not worrying about saving money. That would have been the life.
Uh-huh.
Oh well, it'd be decades later a story of a girl that and you would rate in that this made up miscarriage you had happened, and decades later you would write in the paper that how many kids you have, and you'd go like one, they're in heaven now. You would rate that in the obituary and
Maybe
make your friends
that's
scratch
her-
it. You wouldn't. Not
That's
maybe.
her prerogative.
Not
It
maybe.
doesn't matter.
Not maybe. You wouldn't. Is that frustrating, Mark, as a detective? Everybody playing devil's advocate? She will not do that. And by the way, this is my sibling. This is how I grade. All your stories are if I was and if this happened. This happened to me. Can I feel? Or do I have to talk to BetterHelp to be able to feel? Shame on you.
Feels.com/KATG.
Right. It was my brother, sister, other that passed away. Okay?
That's true. It is your experience. That
Thank
is how
you.
you're reacting.
In fact, I need the weekend off to process it. Okay.
You're going
Thanks.
back to the family's place, the old
Yeah,
place, right?
Yeah, my dad moved out ever since my mom was in, soon after my mom was in assisted living for Alzheimer's, and he moved into an apartment closer to her, and so we're gonna go through the house and see if there's anything fun from our childhood.
Yeah. So Xerxes rolls some weed for Keith when he needs. Excuse me, Mark. I know that you're next cop, but you are a criminal now. Anyway, so we're heading out right after this show to Long Island. So Xerxes is like, I'm not sure how much I'll be able to roll, and Keith goes, yeah, I just want to smoke in my childhood home. And he's like, I will have them for you.
Mark, it's so good to see you. Thank you very much for your time. I'm excited to hear your album. Comes out next month. Is that a true story?
September 14th. Yeah. Anywhere you can listen, iTunes, Apple iTunes, Spotify. If you have Sirius XM, you're going to get it in the car there.
But what's the title?
It's called The Bangers.
The Bangers. Nice.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of all the jokes that, like, I kind of sort of almost like Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
That I just want to like kind of sort of wrap up in a bow, have them all in one location, and basically just kiss him goodbye, and come up with a whole new act.
That's great. So you're sort of retiring this act.
Yeah.
By putting it in album. I like that.
I'm trying. Cool. Like, so a lot of the jokes have been around for a while, but they're all on YouTube, sort of scattered, not collecting many views at all. So why don't we just put it all on one album and not get any sales at all?
The way the world goes, right?
Yeah.
And of course, download the podcast Police Off the Cuff. Get it?
Yeah.
Mark, thanks again.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Heather.